You arrive at Miss Thorne's bed and breakfast on a Tuesday afternoon, though you cannot quite recall which Tuesday, or indeed which month claims ownership of this particular day. The car ride here has already begun to blur at the edges of your memory, like watercolor bleeding into wet paper. You remember only that the roads grew progressively quieter, the turns more gentle, until you found yourself pulling into the circular driveway of a pale yellow Victorian house with white trim so bright it seems to hum softly in the afternoon light. Miss Thorne greets you at the door with a smile that remains perfectly in place, unchanging, as she takes your single suitcase. Her face is pleasant, neither young nor old, nor beautiful nor plain. It's simply there, like a photograph that is always hung on a familiar wall. She does not ask how you found Happy Valley, or where you've come from. She simply nods, that smile steady as a held breath, and says, "We've been expecting you." The bed and breakfast smells of lavender and something else you cannot quite name. Vanilla, perhaps, or warm bread. The scent seems to shift depending on where you stand, adapting itself to whatever comfort you most particularly crave in that moment. The hardwood floors do not creak as you walk. The afternoon light filters through lace curtains in precisely measured quantities, never too bright, never casting harsh shadows. Your room is on the second floor at the end of a hallway lined with watercolor paintings of landscapes that seem vaguely familiar, though you cannot place them. Mountains, perhaps, or rolling hills. The details refuse to solidify when you look directly at them. Miss Thorne sets your suitcase on a bench at the foot of a bed and gestures around the space with one graceful hand. "Dinner is at 6, she says, her smile completely undisturbed. "Or whenever you'd like. There's no rush here. No rush at all." When she leaves, you notice she doesn't quite close the door behind her. It simply is closed, as though the transition from open to shut occurred in a space between moments that you somehow missed. The bed dominates the room. It is an old four-poster made of dark wood that gleams with the patina of age and care. The quilt is thick and inviting, a patchwork of creams and soft blues that seem to breathe gently in rhythm with the house itself. You sit on the edge, and the mattress yields to your weight with such perfect accommodation that you feel, for the first time longer than you can remember, that something has been designed specifically for you. You should unpack. You should explore the house, the town, the subdivision called Happy Valley that sprawls in neat curving streets beyond Miss Thorne's establishment. You should do many things. Instead, you lie back, just for a moment, to test the pillows. They're perfect. The ceiling above you is painted a soft white, unmarred by cracks or water stains. You watch it as the afternoon light shifts imperceptibly, never quite dimming, but somehow becoming gentler, more golden, more like honey than sunshine. Your breathing slows. The house makes no sound. There is no traffic outside, no distant voices, no dogs barking or children playing, just a profound cushioned silence that wraps around you like a second quilt. You close your eyes. When you open them again, the light has changed, not darker, never darker here, but different, softer still, as if that's possible. You turn your head to look at the antique clock on the nightstand, a delicate thing with brass hands and Roman numerals on its face. It reads 3 p.m. You cannot remember if it was 3 p.m. when you closed your eyes. You cannot remember actually what time you arrived. The day has become a continuous present tense, a single elongated moment that stretches comfortably in all directions. You should feel concerned about this. Instead, you feel only a mild curiosity, like noticing an interesting stone while walking along a beach, worth observing, but not worth bending down to collect. You rise from the bed, moving to the window. Happy Valley spreads before you in tidy rows of houses, each one slightly different but harmonizing perfectly with its neighbors. The lawns are manicured to identical heights. The sidewalks curve in gentle arcs that never quite form straight lines. You see a man watering his garden 3 houses down. His movements are smooth, unhurried. He turns to wave at someone you cannot see, and his smile, You can make it out even here at a distance, is steady, unwavering, held like a note sustained by a skilled singer. A woman pushes a stroller past Miss Thorne's house. She moves with the same dreamlike grace, her pace never varying. The baby in the stroller does not cry. You watch her progress down the street, and something about the rhythm of her steps, the way the wheels turn, is so perfectly calibrated to induce calm that you find yourself breathing in time with her movements. You look back at the clock. 3 p.m. This time you watch it. The second hand sweeps around the circular face on its journey, completing one full revolution, then another. But when it reaches the 12 again, the minute hand has not moved. Time is breathing here, you realize, cycling, moving but not progressing, like a lung that inflates and deflates without ever emptying or filling completely. You should be disturbed by this. The thought arrives in your mind as if from a great distance, like a letter forwarded from an old address. But disturbed is such a harsh word, requiring sharp edges and sudden movements. There are no sharp edges in Happy Valley. Even the corners of the furniture seem slightly rounded, as though anticipating your comfort. Instead of disturbed, you feel interested, academically curious about this phenomenon the same way one might observe an unusual cloud formation or the pattern of frost on a window. You sit back on the bed, watching the clock perform its circular breathing, and find yourself relaxing deeper into the mattress. The warmth of the bed is extraordinary. It seems to emanate not just from beneath you, but around you, a cocoon of perfect temperature that adjusts moment by moment to your body's needs. You are not sleepy. Sleep would require a transition, a letting go, a surrender to unconsciousness. You don't want that. You want exactly this: the awareness of comfort, the conscious appreciation of rest, the mindful enjoyment of warmth. Hours pass, or is it minutes? Or perhaps the same single moment simply repeating itself over and over like a favorite song played on an endless loop. You hear Miss Thorne's voice from somewhere below, calling softly that dinner is ready. You should go down. You should eat. But the bed is so welcoming, and standing up would require leaving this perfect warmth. And why would anyone choose to leave something so perfect? I'll eat later, you call back, and your voice sounds right. Not too loud, not too soft, perfectly calibrated for this house, this room, this eternal 3 p.m. Of course, Miss Thorne replies, and you can hear the smile in her voice, that unchanging expression of perpetual welcome. Whenever you'd like, there's always time. But there isn't, you think. There isn't time at all. Time has stopped breathing and started simply being, and you find this far more preferable. You rise eventually, whether minutes or hours later you can't say, and you move to the window again. The man is still watering his garden, or perhaps he's back to watering it, or perhaps he never stopped. The distinction seems unimportant. What matters is the rhythm of it, the gentle arc of water catching the unchanging light. You notice other details now, a neighbor trimming a hedge that is already perfectly trimmed, the shears moving in mechanical precision, snip, 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 like a metronome. 2 women talking over a fence, their heads tilted towards each other at exactly the same angle, their smiles mirror images of contentment. A child drawing with chalk on a driveway, the colored lines appearing in slow motion, deliberate and careful. No erasing, no mistakes. No one frowns in Happy Valley. You realize this as you watch. No one looks troubled or rushed or angry. Even the concept of these emotions seems foreign here, like trying to remember a word in a language you studied long ago and long since forgotten. You should miss those emotions perhaps, the full spectrum of human feeling, but instead you feel a profound relief at their absence, like removing a heavy coat you didn't realize you've been wearing. The days, if they can be called days when the clock never advances past 3, blend together in a watercolor wash of contentment. You venture out eventually, walking the curved streets of Happy Valley with Miss Thorne as your guide. She never ages, never tires. Her smile never wavers as she introduces you to neighbors whose names you forget immediately, but whose presence feels oddly familiar, comfortable, like old furniture in a beloved room. Everyone speaks in gentle tones. Conversations are pleasant, meandering, never building to conclusions or arguments. Mr. Peterson discusses his tomato plants, which are always just about to ripen but never quite do, maintaining a perfect state of almost readiness. Mrs. Chen describes her book club, where they've been reading the same novel for months, or perhaps it's been weeks, or years, or days, never quite finishing, never wanting to reach the end. Endings are so abrupt, don't you find? She says with that constant smile. You nod, understanding completely. The HOA meetings happen every Tuesday at the community center, a low-slung building painted with the same soft cream as most houses in the valley. You attend one, sitting in a folding chair that's somehow more comfortable than it has any right to be. The agenda never advances past one item: maintaining our community standards of peace and contentment. No one votes, no one disagrees. They simply sit, smiling gently, nodding at intervals as the president, Mr. Worthington, speaks in soothing tones about the importance of harmony. At night, though night never truly comes, the light simply shifts to a deeper gold, a perpetual sunset that never completes. You return to Miss Thorne's bed and breakfast, to your room, to your bed. The clock still reads 3 p.m., still breathes its circular time, and you sink into the mattress like stone settling into soft mud. The warmth envelops you. You don't sleep because sleeping would mean missing this perfect appreciation of comfort. Instead, you rest in a state of conscious peace, your mind quiet but aware, like a still pond reflecting an unchanging sky. Weeks pass, months perhaps. The clock offers no help in measuring. You've stopped unpacking your suitcase because unpacking would imply you're staying, and staying would imply you had somewhere else to be, and that thought, the thought of somewhere else, has become increasingly difficult to hold in your mind. You remember, distantly, that you came from somewhere, before. There was a before, wasn't there? A place where clocks move forward relentlessly, where time was a river rushing you toward rapids you could not avoid, where people frowned, where mornings came too early and nights ended too soon, where comfort was a brief respite between discomforts, not a permanent state of being. The memory feels like something forgotten, something happened to someone else in another lifetime, a story someone told you once that you've mostly forgotten. One afternoon, or perhaps it's the same afternoon, the eternal 3 p.m. afternoon, you sit on a rocking chair with Miss Thorne in her front porch. The chair rocks itself at precisely the right pace, requiring no effort on your part. Across the street, a family's having a barbecue, the smoke rising in a perfectly straight line into the windless air. Their laughter is genuine, musical, never rising to the harsh peaks of real amusement, but maintaining a steady baseline of pleasant contentment. Miss Thorne brings you tea without asking. It's exactly the right temperature, at exactly the right level of sweetness. She settles into her chair beside you, her smile undisturbed, as always. "Are you happy here?" she asks, though the question is rhetorical. You can see in her unchanged expression that she already knows the answer. "Yes," you say, and the word feels true in the way words rarely did before, in that other place, that other life. "You're not the first to find us," she says. Her voice is warm like honey. Happy Valley has a way of calling to those who need it most, those who are tired of racing and the striving and the endless forward motion of time. You nod, rocking gently, watching the smoke rise. "Some people," she continues, "would call this a trap, a limbo, a place where nothing happens, where nothing changes. where time has stopped and you're caught like an insect in amber. The words should frighten you, but they don't. They don't understand, she says. They've never been as tired as you were. They've never felt a time as a violence, progress as an assault, change as a wound that never heals. You close your eyes, feeling the warmth of the teacup in your hand, the gentle rock of the chair, the soft air that never grows too hot or too cold. This isn't a trap, you think quietly. This is exactly what you wanted. Yes, Miss Thorne agrees. This is all you wanted. All of you who found your way here. You wanted time to stop hurting you. You wanted the world to stop demanding. You wanted permission to simply be, without becoming. You open your eyes and look at her. That smile hasn't changed, hasn't wavered, hasn't shown a single crack in all the time you've known her. And you realize now that this is not a mask she wears, but the truth of who she is. There is no performance here, no pretending, just the steady state of contentment, maintained perfectly, indefinitely. Can I stay? You ask, even though you already know the answer. You are already staying, my dear, she says. You've been staying since the moment you decided the bed was too comfortable to leave. Since you watched the clock and felt relief instead of panic, since you walked these streets and felt grateful for the absence of discord. She's right, of course. You've already made your choice. Perhaps you made it long before you arrived in those final exhausted moments of your other life when you wished, desperately, completely, for everything to simply stop, to pause, to give you rest. Happy Valley heard that wish, and Happy Valley answered. You know, Miss Thorne says softly, some people would say you can never leave, but that's not quite accurate. The doors aren't locked. The roads still lead out. She pauses, her unwavering smile just as serene. It's just that once you remember what you're leaving to, the world that never stops moving, never stops demanding, never gives you permission to simply stop, well, the question becomes less about whether you can leave and more about whether you would. You understand completely the thought of returning to that place where clocks march forward like soldiers, where comfort is temporary, where peace is always interrupted, fills you with something quiet and cold that settles in your chest. Not fear, something more fundamental than fear, the recognition that some races are not worth running. Here, she says, you are safe from all of that. Safe, yes, that's the word. Not trapped, safe. You finish your tea as the eternal sunset paints the sky in shades of honey and rose that never deepen to night. The family across the street continues their perfect barbecue. The man 3 houses down waters his garden. The clock in your room breathes its circular time. And you, sitting in Miss Thorne's rocking chair, smiling your own steady smile, feel the last tether of your old life finally slip free. You are home now. You are at rest. You're exactly where you choose to be. The question was never whether you could leave Happy Valley. The question was whether anywhere else deserved to be called home, and you've already answered it. You rise from your rocking chair, thank Miss Thorne for the tea, and return to your room, to your perfect bed, to your breathing clock. You lie down in the warmth and close your eyes, not to sleep, but to savor this moment that will last forever, because forever has become now, and now never has to end. Welcome home, the house seems to whisper. Welcome home, and rest. You smile, steady and unchanging, and accept the gift that Happy Valley offers, the permanent present, the eternal pause, the mercy of a world that finally agreed to stop. And somewhere far away, in a place where clocks still move forward and people still frown and time still wounds, your old life continues without you. But that is not your concern anymore. You are here. You are comfortable. And you are finally, perfectly, perpetually at peace. And that, my dear traveler, is where you will remain.